Hey, it's Rita here, and today's podcast is all about your energy and creating, maintaining, replenishing your energy as a leader. So it's the first of a three-part series on deliberate leader foundations, and those foundations are energy, relationships, and performance. So this one is all focused on energy. And specifically, I really talk about internal dialogue and chatter, and ways that we can manage that to create the right circumstances for energy. You are in absolute control of your energy, even though it doesn't always feel like that. And I'm hoping that this podcast gives you some food for thought on how you can better manage your energy in this practice of leadership. Enjoy. Welcome to this week's episode of the Deliberate Leader podcast. My name is Rita 𝗵𝗂, and this week I am going to be speaking to you about the core elements of deliberate leadership. Deliberate is one of those massive words that can mean anything, right? What I derive as deliberate, you may not. You might actually have very, very different meaning associated with it. If I took 12 leaders and brought them all into this space and asked them what deliberate means, they're probably going to have a common theme or thread in between, their meaning, but they are going to have their own version and definition of it because it is one of those words. And so today I want to provide, to you what's a little bit of a philosophy around the deliberate leadership and what being deliberate means in leadership, but with a specific focus actually on energy. So this is the first of three podcasts that are going to really focus on the three fundamental attributes of deliberate leadership. And those three key things are energy, relationships, and performance. So this week's is going to be focused on energy, and then next week we will bring you relationships. The week after that, we will bring you performance. So energy, another big topic. Energy, like so many things in leadership, we make a choice to lead. I don't know if you're able to think back to that time that you decided to lead. Was it an invitation for you to lead? Maybe it was, an opportunity for a promotion or an opportunity for advancement and, meeting a measure of success, whatever that might have meant to you. Or was it that you deliberately set out to be a leader? And I ask that question all the time in the leadership programs that I run, and I get a range of varying responses. But it is often one of the two. We either choose to be a deliberate leader, or it's come to us as an opportunity and as a path for us perhaps to achieve progression or success. And so we take it. Now, the thing about leaders, the ones that I work with that are happiest are working on their practice of leadership with intention every single day. So they don't just turn up and go, great, I've got these sets of responsibilities, this team, these metrics, I'm just going to go and lead. There's a game plan associated with leadership for them. And part of that game plan often is around their energy. And that's what I want to focus on today. So we are going to be paying attention to energy, how we create more energy, how we make sure that we can sustain it and maintain it, and what do we do when our energy is depleted. So the first thing really to think about with energy is that you will have different sources of energy. And I'm going to go into those in a bit more detail in a moment. But what I really want you to stay with right now is that your energy, first and foremost, is either going to come from yourself or it's going to come from others. Now, that is the classic definition of introversion and extroversion. So if you find that you've got to plug into yourself to be able to maintain, create energy, recharge your energy, then you may identify with being more of an introvert. If you, on the other hand, need to plug into people, maybe a bustling cafe, maybe some noise, maybe you like to sit with your team, maybe that your energy is at its higher level when you are actually collaborating with others, then perhaps you identify with being more of an extrovert. And then there are those of us that are smack bang in the middle, and that is ambiverts. And so that might not be a term that you are so familiar with, but there is this notion of an ambivert, and that means that you're able to fluctuate between, creating energy by tapping into your own internal energy resource and you're also able to draw energy from others. And you'll make that distinction based on the need that you have at the time. So when we're thinking about how we create and maintain our energy, one of the first things we really need to tune into is, well, you know, where do I like to draw my energy from? Where is it preferred for me that I draw my energy from? Is it from myself or is it from others? Or is it somewhere in between? Because maybe you identify with being an ambivert. So that's the first thing to cover off. And if you've done, you know, any kind of personality profiling tools, like the Clarity4D, which we use extensively, like, you know, the Herrmann Brain Dominance or Myers-Briggs or DISC or any of them, there's hundreds of them, that may have given you an insight into where you prefer to draw your energy from. But energy, you know, I would argue is probably our most important resource actually to manage as leaders, because it can be sucked quickly. It can be relatively hard to replenish if we don't know how to replenish it, and we're kind of, you know, tapping into things that might not be so helpful for us. And it can be hard to connect into, because it's often the thing that we kind of continue to go on and go on and go on and not really pay attention to it, thinking that it'll just kind of manifest through osmosis, or thinking that, oh, a good night's sleep will fix my energy issues. And, you know, it would be great if that were the thing that fixed it, but often it's not. So introversion, extroversion, or do you sit in the middle in that ambivert scale? Energy is often referred to as your mojo. And so, you know, that feeling of, it's a feeling, you know, am I feeling it? Am I not? Is it something that I am able to tap into right now or not? We think that it just kind of happens. And I want to really focus today and help with knowing and helping you know that energy is not just something that just happens. You need to work on it deliberately in order to maintain that energy. So those leaders, and, you know, and they might not even be leaders, but just people that you might, you know, that might know within your community that kind of just have a really positive sense of energy about them, and they're always kind of up and about and doing things and you know, having a great purpose, maybe being very connected, all of those things. Those people are likely doing it in a very deliberate way. They're making the choice to engage in activities and to engage in practices that help them to be able to sustain and maintain and create that energy. So mojo just doesn't, you know, again, happen by osmosis. We do really need to think about how we create the right circumstances for that positive mojo. Now, the thing with energy is that it doesn't always need to be super, super high. And in fact, at different times of my life, I've, you know, absolutely suffered from adrenal fatigue and even an addiction to adrenaline, because it really fuels, you know, that desire to go and that desire to achieve, and, you know, having that very, very clear purpose. It can actually be quite addictive. And what I have come to understand, particularly in the last, you know, kind of 5 or 6 years, is that peak level of focus and adrenaline-inducing state does not always serve me well either. In fact, it's a quick way to exhaustion and to burnout. So having that, you know, having a sense of energy doesn't mean that you're always operating from up here. Having a great sense of energy is understanding what you need and creating the right circumstances for you to create the energy state that's going to best serve you, depending on the activity that you need to focus on, depending on the conversations that you need to have, depending on how you need to show up and do what it is that you need to do. Another big aspect of energy is your mindset. And recently, I've really enjoyed reading a book called Chatter by Ethan Kross. And he talks a lot about this internal dialogue that can really impact our mindset. Now, mindset, you know, arguably is more important than any level of training that you can do in order to get you to achieve what you want to achieve. And I remember listening many, many years ago to the head coach of the New Zealand All Blacks, the rugby team, global phenomenon, because they have been able to achieve, well, at the time when I was listening to this interview, probably 4 or 5 years ago, they had been able to achieve better results than any rugby team on the planet. And the head coach was being interviewed, and he was asked, you know, what is the thing that unlocks performance for your team? Why is it that they've been able to sustain performance for such a lengthy period of time? And he talked about mindset being more important than any physical training and even any behaviors that the team were exhibiting towards each other. So that mindset governs all of it. So if you think about mindset as the central nervous system, we're going to use that analogy. So that's the core system. And then off the back of that, we're demonstrating behaviors, we're engaging in activities, we're engaging in dialogue, we're physically moving, whatever it is that we may need to do. But if our mindset is not right, none of the other stuff matters. The mindset that we go in, the intention that we go in with for a conversation, for an activity, for a presentation, to kick off a project, even to have conversations on a personal front, right, with those that are important to you, at a personal perspective, we need to have the right mindset. Now, mindset, in order to get yourself there, I don't know about you, but I know that I need to slow myself down and really think about how am I going to approach this situation or this conversation. Do I do that every time? No, I don't at all. And if I had my family here, if I had some of my closest friends, I would tell you that, yeah, she's pretty good 60-70%, because I do really try and think about it, but not all the time, because at the end of the day, I'm human, as are you, right? So this is not about creating a sense of shame or embarrassment or a sense of I'm not good enough because I'm not engaging in a situation where I'm creating the right mindset for me. This serves for you as a reminder. What are you doing around cultivating a mindset that gets you prepared for different interactions and different activities that you need to participate in? So mindset before any practicing, any dialogue, anything that you're about to launch on into, make sure that you've got your mindset correct and in check, and make sure that that mindset is going to serve you well for what it is that you need to embark on. Now, how do we attend to our mindset? And this is where I want to bring you some of the research from Ethan Kross. So he focuses on 6 key things in his book that I'm going to share with you now. And I would recommend that you check out his book, Chatter. So he says, in terms of creating a healthy mindset and also limiting the impact of negative chatter, he says that we're best served when we really think about our inner voice. And our inner voice matters. What I've taken away from that book is that our inner voice is either going to be a great coach for us, or it's going to be our harshest critic. And what we choose, great coach, harshest critic, is going to influence our decisions, outcomes that will come from that chatter and that mindset that we choose to adopt. So inner voice matters. And I would go so far as to extend that into even the conversations you're having with others. So are they coaching conversations or are they critical conversations? You're going to get the better outcome and a best outcome for them when you're engaging in coaching conversations, which looks like lots of questions, getting them to explore their frame of reference that already exists, respecting and acknowledging and honouring the fact that they already have wisdom around the issue that they might be talking to you about. And your job as coach is really to unlock that wisdom in them. You can also apply this to yourself. So when we're thinking about mindset and getting ourselves in the right mindset, you have everything you already need to be able to do that. But are you creating circumstances through your energy where you can really be your own source of wisdom? And that requires contemplation. It requires a positive internal dialogue and chatter. It requires a slowing down and groundedness. When it's too noisy up here, when there's lots of things happening, it can be hard to hear, right? It's like that transmission noise that you might get when you're trying to tune in to a particular station, or when you can't find that station on the radio. And I know we don't do that anymore because everything's digitally programmed these days, right? But if you are of my vintage, 70s and 80s kid, you will know that kind of white noise almost that you would hear when you were trying to tune into your favorite radio station to hear, the top 10 or the top 20 or whatever it is that you wanted to tune into. It's super annoying when you're trying to get that clarity and that crispness, but you can't, because of all that transmission noise. So you being able to really focus on positive inner chatter that positively impacts your mindset is about just staying with it and very, very carefully turning that dial so you can find that point that you need so you can hear clearly. Ethan also talks about distance for clarity, and he says, if we can talk to ourselves like we are advising a friend, we're getting a little bit of distance from the issue, and that absolutely helps our energy. It's a little bit like what I was saying before about being kind of too heady and very much in it, and you can't really hear, and you need to quieten everything down to really be able to hear it. Getting this distance, which often we have when we're talking to a friend, because we're not necessarily feeling what we're feeling, or what they're feeling rather. We're not really involved. We might know the background story. We might know all the circumstances that got them into that situation, but we're not really in it. And that is useful because it gives us distance. It doesn't mean we're not empathetic. It doesn't mean that we can't really understand and provide that support that they might need, but it just gives us that distance. And so if we can do that for ourselves and just get that little bit of distance so we can see the issue differently. It's often what I talk about, in terms of taking that perspective walk. You can take a physical walk, right? But you can just let your mind take a perspective walk around the issue. Is there another way that I can think about this? Is there something I've missed? Is it going to benefit me and the situation if I actually look at this issue from a different perspective? So that's getting that distance. He also talks about the zoom out. And, this issue that you're focused on, that's consuming all of your energy, that's creating a set of negative emotions, that's creating distress for you, is it going to matter in an hour, by this evening, tomorrow, next week, next month, in a year, whatever time frame? Is it going to matter? Some will, some issues will, right? They're going to be big. You might not feel the intensity of that issue as you do right now. It might reduce, it might increase, it might heighten, it might go actually through some fluctuating periods, which often happens with change and with big issues. But the zoom out is a way for us to get a little bit of perspective. How much is this going to matter to me in a little period of time? And even just pausing and asking yourself that question can do wonders for your energy. It creates a disrupt in the energy, right? And it makes us think like, oh, this is not going to be a big deal next week. I know that I feel this really intensely right now, but the likelihood is that next week I'm not going to feel it as intensely as what I do today. And often that little circuit breaker can be really, really useful in positively impacting our energy. It gives us choice. If we just take a little walk, so the fourth thing now is around wonder and awe and shifting our focus. So it includes awe and wonder. I've been doing a meditation course recently on a Sunday evening, and I know that when I come into that meditation course and I've done something great during the day, like a bike ride or a walk, watching my kids outside in the fresh air, playing sport, engaging in sport myself and physical activity, I know that I come into those meditations in a different state because I am thinking about, the visuals of what I've seen. And at the moment, where we are right now, it's autumn, and the beautiful autumn colours, the fluctuating temperatures, the change in cooking. We're going from lots of summery dishes into those heartier kind of winter meals. And I'm thinking about all that as I contemplate on the meditation mat. And it creates a circumstance of more vivid visualizations, imagery, and beautiful things that really do support and supplement energy. So wherever you can, getting a walk in nature, putting on a beautiful piece of music and listening to it, or maybe looking at your favorite picture, walking around a gallery if you can, and that's available to you and close by. Whatever it is, even just breathing, right? Just the wonder of the human body. That can really shift our focus and attention and help to cultivate a sense of positive energy for us. being social media savvy, I think is really important. And I have spoken before on the Thursday Thoughts, actually, that I create weekly about my self-imposed time limit on social media. So I have a 30-minute time limit across the social media apps that I engage with on a daily basis. And my time limit on my phone means that I can't access social media after 8 p.m. of an evening. So it was a bit annoying when I had a friend the other night at 10:30 send me something going, check this out, it's really funny. Because I went to click on to the social media app where this video was and I couldn't. And I was like, oh, well, best to look at that tomorrow then, right? Now, it is super strict and it's there for a reason. And does it mean that, I get annoyed? Yeah, I do. Because I'm like, oh, that'd be a really funny video. Like I could do with a funny video right now. But that social media ban, if you like, or limit means that at a moment where I might be bored and I want kind of like an energy hit, like a sugar fix almost, and I might grab my phone just to mindlessly scroll, I'm prevented from doing that. So in those moments, I usually go, okay, and I'll grab my book, or I might just sit there and do some breathing, or I might listen to some music, or I might actually talk to someone if it's that time of the day and I feel like that's what I want to do, if that's going to support my energy. But that is a really intentional decision. Now, that might not work for you, and that's fine. Some people really benefit from digital detox and being able to create those limits. Some don't, and that's up to you, right? For me, I know that it does really help me to manage my energy when I'm not sucked into it, because you know what it's like you go to look up one thing and then by the time you know it, it's 45 minutes later and you've wasted a whole bunch of time and you're feeling jittery and anxious for it because your mind's kind of like gone into all these different places. Does it need to? Is that something that supports your energy? One thing from being social media savvy, what it does do is really helps us to stop comparing. And I think that can be a real energy drain. So when you've got a lot of shit going on anyway in your life, like you've got family responsibilities, you've got work responsibilities, you're trying to do it all, you're trying to maintain your health, you're trying to maintain your kids' health, you're trying to be a present, participative parent and partner. You're trying to, be the friend that's out there socially doing all the stuff. It is damn exhausting, right? So when you can impose things that help you manage that energy, it just takes the edge off and it takes the pressure off trying to be everything to everyone. The other thing with social media is that we're looking at people's highlight reels, right? Now, I am not at all an expert in creating reels. I'm very lucky that I've got my team that help me do that. And I've got, teenagers that are much more savvy than what I am in that space. But I know that when I am checking out kind of, those reels or, stuff that people are posting on social media, that's the highlights. They've gone and created the best bits and put those together for us. That's not a behind the scenes reel, right? And even when people do put the behind the scenes reel, it's often like funny, the bloopers, the blooper reels, which are often very entertaining. But we're not getting the shittiness. We're not getting the crap bits. We're not getting the moments where their energy was depleted, where they were really upset, really angry, really frustrated, really sad, really distressed. Whatever it is, we're not getting that. We're getting the best bits. So just remember that everyone's got a highlight reel, but everyone's also got a behind the scenes reel. You are experiencing your behind the scenes reel and your highlight reel, but we get to choose what we show others. So that can really impact your energy. So just know that it's balanced, it's good and it's bad, and it's everything in between because it's messy and it's life. But your behind the scenes reel is not often the thing that we're showing and not the thing that others show us too on social media. And the other thing about chatter, and the last thing I want to bring you from Ethan's book, is that our inner chatter absolutely impacts our bodies physically. So you might know people and you might have experienced this yourself where you can really talk yourself into feeling quite unwell. And I'm not talking about intentional self-sabotaging, because maybe you don't want to attend an event and you're like, oh, I'm really going to bring on a headache here. Your internal dialogue about I'm not good enough, I don't feel confident. I don't have anything that I could add to this event. I look like shit. I feel like shit. No one's going to be interested in talking to me or being interested in what I have to say. If you've got an event in the evening and you spend the whole day rehearsing and regurgitating and repeating those particular messages to yourself, I am pretty confident that you will get to the evening and go, I actually feel really unwell. I'm not going to be able to attend. Now, whether you attend or not, that's totally up to you, right? You've got to, manage your energy and know whether that's going to serve you well, because it's your choice at the end of the day. But internal chatter, and the internal chatter that is quite critical, sabotages us. And it sabotages our ability to have great impact, but also to feel energetically what we want to feel. So if you are making the decision to not attend the event because you feel like that's not going to best serve your energy, then go for it. But if you are creating inner dialogue, which is I'm not good enough, I've got nothing of value, who's going to want to talk to me, I'm boring, I've got nothing of interest and substance to say, I'm really shy, I don't like meeting people, blah, 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 all that stuff, right? You will self-sabotage. So it's your choice at the end of the day. But know that that inner dialogue can create physical illness. It can make us feel absolutely crook in the guts. It can make us feel anxiety, like our heart's about to jump out of our throat. It can bring on massive headaches, migraines, that feeling of being really jittery, that feeling of unease in the body. And if you're feeling that, then I would probably engage in the zoom out and go, am I still going to feel like this evening, tomorrow, next week, next month? Am I still going to feel like this? Being aware and tuning in to the internal dialogue and what you're saying to yourself and those messages on repeat can be really, really illuminating when it comes to you managing your energy and what's going to best serve you. So mindset we've spoken about, mojo we've spoken about. Confidence is another big part of energy. And I don't really like to subscribe to the the fake it till you make it philosophy, because confidence is felt deeply within. It's conviction. It's having a self-belief because you know something to be true. So confidence, often we look to others to give us that confidence. So they might pay us a compliment, they might go, job well done. And that can help us to feel very energetic. But if we're relying constantly on others to give that to us and we don't have that grounded self-belief, what happens when there aren't people there to give us that compliment? What happens when we're working with leaders or a team and often when you're the leader, no one's complimenting you, like you're recognizing and praising and rewarding? You might not have a leader that's doing that for you. You might be the most senior leader. Like you might be sitting there as a CEO or the head of or whatever, and no one's passing those compliments on to you. So with confidence, we've got to feel it internally, and it's that deep conviction. It's knowing that we're really good at something, knowing the impact that we're here to have, knowing what we're leading with, our strengths. And that's where that deep-seated confidence and conviction really comes from. With well-being, I don't want to get too preachy about this, and you will tune into podcasts that are much better at giving you advice on things like sleep, your nutrition, your exercise. But what I will say is that over the last 12 months, I've been working with a health coach, Alessandra Edwards. And one thing I have really learnt about myself is that I have chronically underestimated sleep and rest. I have overestimated the impact of high energy, go, 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 drive, typical A-type personality stuff. But when I have now prioritized sleep, which means it's something, sometimes I don't get to watch my TV show at night. It means that sometimes I'm like, I'd love to have that conversation with you, but I'm going to have that conversation with you tomorrow. Oh, gee, I'd love to really, finish that piece of work. It's going to be there tomorrow, right? And ensuring that I can prioritize sleep, I am super, super better for it. I am more focused, much more clear, and much more intentional about what I'm doing. So prioritizing sleep is super important. I'm not going to tell you what your optimum level of sleep is. That's up to you, right? And then you will know, because we're all adults or close to an adult, if you're not quite there yet as an adult listening to this, but you all know, what your optimum range for sleep is, and getting yourself, into the conditions of sleep. So no gadgets, for example, in your bedroom might be something that works for you. As I told you, I've got that imposed time limit on social media apps, so I can't even go on them, even if I was not able to sleep and bored and just wanted something to kind of numb and quieten the thoughts in my mind. As a result, though, what I have taken on more of is meditation. And as I mentioned, I'm doing a meditation course, loving it, learning a lot about incorporating it as a daily practice. And one way that I do that is I've asked a friend to hold me to account. So every time I complete a meditation, and I aim for daily, I don't always hit daily, but I aim for daily, I send her a little text and I just say, meditation's done. And she'll just send a woohoo or a little emoji to let me know that she's got it. Now, this is a little game that I'm playing with myself. My beautiful friend Maurice, that's holding me to account. Is she making me do it? No, of course not. She's not texting me going, oh my gosh, it's 2 p.m. I haven't got your text. Where are you at today? It's up to me to send her a text. She'll hold space for me. And if I haven't texted her for 3 or 4 days, not that this has happened, but I reckon she would then go, hey, how you going? Just checking in. What's happening? Have you meditated, or what's happening with your meditation practice? I've asked her to keep me accountable for this. And what the meditation has done is given me a place where I can retreat internally and breathe and contemplate in a healthy way. So it's reduced the noisy, unhelpful chatter and opened up a world of positive contemplation. And sometimes that's just breathing and just getting my heart rate, at a level where it's helpful, where it's healthy, and where it creates a situation that optimizes health for me. So meditation's been really important. You can jump onto a YouTube app, or there are so many apps. Calm is one, Headspace is another, but I often just jump onto YouTube and we'll listen to something from Joe Dispenza or Sarah Raymond, or one of my favorite ones that are a guided meditation. But it's super, super useful, and could be for 5 minutes. The other practice that really helps me to complement with meditation is journaling. So if I sit down in my meditation chair, which often I'm doing very early in the morning, if I've woken up early, then I will have my journal nearby. So when my meditation concludes, I pick up my journal and I'll open up to a fresh page. And usually within 10 or 12 seconds, a topic will come to mind. And I'll just start writing down my thoughts. I'm not writing for anybody else except me. I don't expect that anyone's ever going to read the journal. Not that it matters, but it means that because I don't have the pressure of, writing for an audience, I'm just writing for myself. It means I can be really, really free with my thoughts, what I'm writing. It doesn't really matter if it doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter if my punctuation and grammar is not right. I'm just writing. And I get to use the fuel that's come about from my meditation, from being so centered and grounded, into the writing. Sometimes I'll go back a few days and just look at themes, look at whether there is a pattern that's emerging. Sometimes there won't be, and that's okay. So journaling is a really beautiful practice to have as a partner to meditation. And the way I hack it, as I said, is I've got my journal right there. So when I'm finished with my meditation and I'm in that beautiful calm state where I've just opened my eyes, I've just started to get a bit of feeling back to my fingers and my toes, I will just grab my meditation journal and just start writing. It's a really beautiful complement to it. I want to also talk to you in terms of energy, in terms of your rebound time. I watch a lot of young kids basketball because my youngest plays basketball. My eldest did too, but not so much now. And he's playing with friends and, in a club. But my youngest, I'm constantly hearing the coach yell out to the kids, rebound, rebound, right? So they've gone for a shot, they're trying to catch it, and then of course go for the rebound and try and get the basket. Rebound time in leadership is also super important because it's like, how long are you going to be out for? If you do cop a hit, So when adversity occurs, when there's a challenge, are you going to be ready to rebound, or are you going to be out for a period of time? Now, being out is not a bad thing, right? That rest, that reflection, if you are not feeling it, if your mindset is right, your energy is not right, physically you're unwell, of course, don't push through. My PT always says, do not push through pain. You know, we make those adjustments based on where our body is at. We might change up the exercise, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we stop. And I reckon that this really impacts our rebound time, because the longer you are out, the longer you are saying to yourself, I can't do it, I won't do it, you know, that internal kind of negative chatter about whatever's occurred, you know, getting us to contemplate, ruminate, but in a negative way, really impacts our rebound time. And then it impacts our ability to bounce back, demonstrate that resilience, and kind of get back in and do what we need to do. So you might like to be thinking in terms of creating more energy for yourself, preserving your energy, replenishing your energy. How quick is my rebound time? So if I step away from a conversation which is quite tricky, or if I, you know, have an interaction with someone that doesn't go the way that I want it to, if I have a setback because we don't achieve a measure of success, you know, the team doesn't do something it needs to do, how long do I wallow in it? How long do, you know, I create that energy by wallowing in it, which then unfortunately has a contagious effect for everybody around us? How long do I do that? Or do I try and get into the rebound as quickly as I can and take advantage then, and leverage that sense almost of loss to help me propel and level up for that next challenge or that next thing that I'm facing. So really think about your rebound time. And I'm certainly not saying don't allow yourself thinking time, reflection time, rest time, but spending too much time and energy in that may impact your ability to rebound and kind of get back on the court. Stress we've spoken about, and I think, you know, I've talked to you about sleep. Another good way to manage your stress, though, and of course not all stress is bad. Sometimes we need that positive stress to keep us going. But in terms of energy, you know, are you consuming foods that are going to cause some stress and inflammation to your body? Are you paying attention to your nutrients and making sure that you've got a really nutrients-dense diet that you have on most days? By all means, have a treat. Had a cannoli on Saturday, and for those of you that know what a cannoli is, maybe you've got to turn back around. They're bloody delicious. Was I going to say no to a cannoli? No. Am I going to eat it every day? No, I'm not, because it's yum, but it's not the most nutritiously dense food. Did it, you know, make my heart sing when I ate it? Yeah, absolutely. We're in good company at a beautiful restaurant. Of course, I'm gonna do that. That's also important. A bit of soul food to nourish, but I'm going to make good choices around what I choose to consume on a daily basis, because that is going to impact my energy. I wore a glucose monitor last year, and tracking, you know, food over 14 days and then seeing kind of the spikes to glucose, depending on what I was eating, was super, super fascinating, because not only could I see the glucose spike increase on my app that was connected to the glucose monitor on my arm, but I also knew how I was feeling. Right, so I knew that I'd have that little sugar hit and then the slump that comes after it. Not with all foods, but with some. Right, so you know, it's a good way to engage in some more mindfulness around the food that you're consuming, what that's doing to you in terms of energy spikes, whether it's making you feel great or then whether it's making you feel shit and you're crashing, and what you can do around that. And exercise. Are you moving your body every day? You know, yesterday I went on a bike ride with one of my kids, and it was beautiful. It was such a great day. We were out, autumn colors, wind, fun, right? So engaging in things that make you feel good, but it also means that you're moving your body. Dance around your kitchen, dance while you're in the car, whatever it is, right? But just do things where you are moving your body to the best of your abilities, and really engaging in a way that helps you to create energy. Super, super important. So sleep, diet, and exercise. Meditation, we've spoken about. Journaling, we've spoken about. And then the last thing that I probably want to leave you with in terms of this topic of energy is your emotions and your thoughts. So, you know, we are human and we are here to experience a whole range of emotions. This is not about, you know, not getting angry. It's not about, you know, not feeling sadness. or not feeling frustration because we're so zen. We're humans. We're meant to feel that range of emotions. And it's actually honoring and acknowledging that emotion when it comes in, not forcing it down or making it go away, and being gentle with yourself and going, yep, this has happened and I'm feeling this way. And now that I've got that awareness, I'm going to reflect and I've got a choice. So there's an insight that I'm going to draw from that, and then I'm going to act. And that little model is called the 𝗟𝗲 model, which I created a few years ago, really as a guide for leaders to slow them down in their decision making, because too often we're super, super quick, and we value quick and we value fast and pacey, and it's got to be done now because we're going to lose the opportunity. Yeah, maybe there are some decisions that require all of that. But when we can engage in practices that are managing our energy effectively, we will make better decisions. You don't lose your edge because you go a fraction slower. In fact, people will respect you more because you're being more deliberate, you're being more considered, you're giving them a view maybe into your game plan, and you will feel more confident because you're going to be calmer. You're going to be more self-assured when you are making that decision, taking that next step, because you have appropriately managed your energy. You're not letting it drive you, right? You are in control. You are curating the right circumstances to create a sense of energy, and in a very mindful and careful and considered way. So that brings us to the close on the topic of energy. It is the first of 3 topics, as I said. Our next podcast is going to be on relationships, because it's another big aspect of being a deliberate leader. So what are you doing to nurture your relationships, to establish good relationships, even to end relationships when you need to? And then finally, we're going to close off with performance. Thanks for tuning in this week, and I look forward to being on the Deliberate Leader podcast with you next time. Hey, it's Rita here. I hope you've enjoyed our Deliberate Leader podcast today, focusing on energy. I talked to you a lot about internal chatter, internal dialogue, and the importance of that. We also, though, looked at, the sources of energy, and energy, it's not super interesting in that the building blocks that you use to maintain and create your energy require structure and require discipline. So there is no magic pill or potion or anything that I can give you in terms of creating your energy. It's going to be about you tuning in. It's going to be about you being aware, knowing that you have a choice in how you respond to certain situations, and knowing that you absolutely are in control of your daily practices that are going to create an abundance of energy for you. I'll see you next time.